And there
Yeah,
we go. Thursday live. Can't keep some good dogs down. Oh, no, no,
yeah, but you
no.
can kick them. No, but they can get kicked. Some good dogs can get kicked really good, unfortunately.
Woo. All right. Happy Thursday, everyone. We've almost made it through another week. Um, and I stress almost. You know,
We're not there.
we are not there yet. So it's actually, we today we had a few walls that we hit in business and life, and really that's going to happen to us in business and life on a regular basis. That's just how it darn goes. And it's really
It does.
how you deal with those. Um, in business and in your personal life, that kind of shows your character, and your mental toughness.
Well, it's like this. It's anything, right? I mean, it's part of your everyday life. And when you look at business, business is part of your everyday life. And when you own a business, it'd be great if, like, at 5 o'clock, you're completely done. And it just never happens that way, especially in the early years. Man, when I first started out, I'd leave the house about 6:30 in the morning, and I typically got home about 10:30. And that was the beginning, just starting off in the business, learning, training, all that stuff. I didn't know anything about polishing vehicles when I first started, so I had to spend a lot of time. So I would wake up that early so I could get up to Omaha, but before 8 o'clock in the morning. And then sometimes in the winter, what you would have to do, because there wasn't enough room in the dealerships, what you would do is go ahead and walk the lot, get your list approved, and then you would have to wait till about 5 o'clock. And that's when the mechanics and everybody else would leave. So you'd finally have a bay or two to work in because it was so cold. So then from 5 till typically 9:30, you were cramming just to get everything that you had on your list done. And then it was an hour and 20-minute drive home. But
Did
I'm just saying, it's hard to separate the two.
And so even being an hour and 20 minutes, like kind of my brain was churning to think, okay, and because we have several of the guys who are in our network who also do a lot of dealer services stuff, and maybe they bring
Mhm.
those cars get dropped off at their facility, but an hour and a half away, that's not really possible. I mean, it's
Oh no, it's not feasible at all. So I'm just saying, and the hours, and I think that's why we're so passionate about trying to help everybody in business. We talk about efficiencies. Efficiency isn't just about selling people products. I mean, efficiency is helping people get back time or save time. For our installers and our detailers, it's for them to actually get time to be with their families and not, be stuck at the shop all the time. Now, for our regular consumers, it's like, okay, I'm sure you enjoy washing and taking care of your vehicle and doing these DIY things on a weekend, but do you really want it to eat up the entire weekend? And that's why we talk about efficiencies there. So you're wanting to save both, the installer and the consumer. You're trying to save them time, and we're not just selling the products.
and they say, that's the one thing that you cannot get back is time, and I think it's just a natural progression for somebody when you have a detailing business that when you start out, you do pour a ludicrous amount. And it's probably like that for any business. Um,
Hmm.
because if you don't, nobody is going to care about it and it's not going to happen. And you really just have to keep pouring and pouring and pouring in.
Yep.
And today that kind of brings up our topic for today. We're going to talk about scaling your business and maintaining high quality standards at the same time. And
Right.
so I think that it's really interesting about what we get to do now in business is work with so many different businesses on small levels, guys just starting out. Heck, we're even opening up training classes that we're going to do all across the country where we're working with people who are DIY people, teaching them to detail their cars. So whether they take that information and want to change and step into a career of detailing, or they just want to get better, or the people that we work with all over the country who are at every single level of a detailing business.
Hmm.
This is going to happen at some point where if you're doing it and you're being successful, you're going to have to start to think about scaling that business and growing the business. And there's so many things that you can do that if you're doing them like it's like walking up a set of stairs instead of just getting
Hmm.
to somewhere that you need to be on the fifth floor, and all of a sudden you've just ran really hard and now you're just looking all the way up a wall at the fifth floor. That can make it easier for you to work on your business and not in your business.
Right. And kind of like when I was talking to Jody, or not Jody today, Rod today. Um, it when you start off, you have so many hats, right? And I mean, you're doing everything. You're doing your marketing, you're doing the work, you're doing the customer service, you're doing all these things, on your own and by yourself. And then the hardest thing is once you kind of get that figured out is being able to take those hats off. And now it's time to find somebody else to be able to do this, somebody else to do that. So you can, continue to focus on some of the bigger things in order to like better customer experience to new services, those kind of things. I mean, that's really what you're trying to scale up to, so you can free up your time.
No, I think what's really cool, like with us in particular, that how we reach out and we really do try to help detailers out growing their business. I mean, I hit that wall myself where I got too busy. I had to bring in an employee, and up to a point, I had a couple employees. You've actually taken the shop model, grown it, been able to bring in management, and then step away from it. So, truly, go on to your next venture and work on building that business too. Um, but I will say, in the world of detailing specifically, whatever size business that you want to have, like there's some people who just aren't really built for and they're not interested in scaling a business. And it's
Hmm.
a-okay to be that guy. If you're a fireman and you got your 4 days, 3 days off a week and you detail on the side and that's kind of just as far as you want to take it, that's absolutely acceptable too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the neatest thing about the industry is you do have those kind of options. So there's two ways you can really take it. Either A, you can go ahead and create a really good job for yourself, or B, you end up creating a business and trying to figure out how do you scale all this? How do you replicate what you yourself have been able to do or been part of doing? How you scale it to go ahead and help it increase and continue to move on its own.
And you just walked me all the way back to that set of stairs that I was talking about. And that's doing things as you're growing the business from the beginning, that you're putting the steps in place,
Hmm.
making systems. So, like, I think if you tried to step away from your business and move out of state, if you didn't have systems in place to know that you're the employees at your shop where you're not there, boots on the ground every single day, checking over them, everything's still getting done consistently and the same way, and the same quality work is just going out over
Hmm.
and over and over because you put the systems in place and you didn't wait until month, you know t minus 30 days till you get the moving truck takes your stuff out of state. That was a process that you worked on the entire time.
Yeah, and I think it's the only way to do it, really. I mean, you want to be able to place yourself there without being there. And the only way by doing that is by putting systems in place, standard operating procedures to checklists. Even if honestly you're not going to get any bigger than just yourself, it's kind of good to have a checklist, so you can go ahead and when you're done with the job, you're checking over your work and honestly, you're making sure that you're trying to give the customer the best possible experience that they can have.
And having those SOPs in place, I mean, I kind of got my tit in a ringer today because I did not realize, and I made like an $1,100 mistake, that I made. Um,
Hmm.
and because I just didn't miss something, because I missed something. So it can happen
Just
to anybody
happens.
from the top to the bottom, and putting those systems in place and making sure that
And
everybody
here we
on your
are
team
today.
knows, then you can
I
avoid that.
know.
How you like that? I used myself as an example of the mistake.
There you go. It happens. Anyway.
All right. So what are the kind of things when it's time to start scaling your business?
I think really when you start looking at the fact you're turning away work, I will say for some people in business, when you look, you're like, oh, I'm booked out for a month, and they feel, somewhat secure, right? That they've got that sitting there. That money that's sitting out there that's 4 weeks away, it might not be there. There could be something in which somebody decided to sell the car or something, a little fender bender or something like that that takes the appointment off the books. Being pushed out that far too stops you from being able to take on more business. Most customers don't want to wait that long. When you start turning away the work, that's when you start realizing you need to scale up. Or maybe you have enough people, it's just the the size of the building. It's holding you back. It's time to start looking for a different location and growing in that way. That is one of the biggest things that I see. Not only that, but seriously looking at the time and seeing that, okay, this is how much time I'm spending at work. This is how much time I'm not spending with my family. And then you also begin to see quality begin to wane too. There's those two things start coming into play. It's time to really look at those options, whether it is a bigger facility or it's another set of hands.
And you really have to be careful to avoid the trap of thinking that you're the only person that can do the work, that you're the only
Oh,
person that
yeah.
can polish a car, that you're the only person that can apply that ceramic coating. Because you know what? You're probably not. And if you find a person and they're good and you train them, they can absolutely do that too. And you have to start
Mhm.
making those moves eventually, or otherwise you're trapped. And it does start affecting your quality of life. You're working too many hours, and what for? What for if
Yeah.
you can't enjoy some of the fruits of your labor and some of the time and have a little downtime? I imagine psychologically and physically as well. Being under stress and too busy all the time, I don't think that's good for you mentally or for your heart and your blood pressure or health or any of that.
Right. And the number one thing that gets in every entrepreneur's way is themselves. And that is the biggest mistake that most businesses make is getting ahead or getting in front of themselves and staying there and not allowing the business itself to grow the way it wants to grow.
And so consistency is probably going to be the key when you do start to scale. And
Hmm.
that's why we put those SOPs in place, because you don't want to start to bring somebody in and then have the quality of what you're putting out go downhill, which would be damaging.
Yeah, definitely not. And it's not about your reputation or anything else. Again, it comes down to customer experience. That's really, when you look at the secret sauce of everything, it's the consumer, it's your customer. That's a secret sauce right there. And and actually helping guide them through the whole experience of what's going to take place. You know, I see a lot of guys who don't set up the parameters, and when you don't set the parameters and don't set the expectations, then you end up with a lot of miscommunication, and it ends up being a mess.
So just that one more little hammer on that, getting yourself prepped and SOPs and everything. If you start thinking of your business from the very beginning, of you're building a franchise that's going to have a hundred locations, even if it's never going to be more than just you in your own garage or in your mobile unit, but you start
Hmm.
treating it like that in every aspect, from how you present yourself to your social media that goes out to the work you're putting out, everything. That's just the winning combination. Well, let's talk
Absolutely.
about maybe when you're ready, when you feel like you're ready, you've hit that wall. What are some things that maybe cautionary tales that you want to look out for when you start to scale? That can be tragic if you're not doing it right. Man, that was a hard sentence for me to say.
I think the hardest thing, or I think the biggest thing is to look at your revenue stream and look at the revenue coming in. It's going to be a scary first leap, but turning away business and then, also having poor quality is going to cost you more in the long run. But if you really want to know, hey, can we do this? What should I do or can I do it? Well, take a look at your revenue stream, see where you're at, see how consistent everything is, and then once you're like, okay, I see a pattern. I see a pattern where this is where we're at. I'm making this as a confident choice, and then go ahead and pull that trigger. But to me, the revenue stream and not looking at that and just saying I'm going for it, that's when you kind of get in trouble.
And people who just they don't take in all of the factors of the job. See if I can get my second sentence out here to come out of this. Brain to mouth to internet. Brain to mouth to internet. I don't know if I could do it. I'm flailing on my two sentences that I'm trying to say, and I cannot seem to structure them properly. So this is when it's great to have a business partner that you can just shut your mouth and say, "Why don't you talk again for a minute?" And I'm going to collect myself, and then I'm going to rejoin you.
Nice. Thanks for the
Yeah.
segue, Dan. Uh, you know, there's a lot of factors, and like what you're saying, you know, you should look at, you're looking at your revenue streams. How much have you turned away? How far are you booked out, and those kind of things, right? Um, these different viewpoints that you need to take to really make this educated you know, leap of faith. You need to step away from what you're doing right away. You can't sit there and keep polishing a vehicle and try to think about this stuff. It doesn't work that way. Too many guys, when they're polishing the vehicle, it is a Zen moment. You know, the headphones are in, polishers in front of them, and that car's not talking back to you, and it's not asking for anything from you except please make me shine. And you're like, got this. You need to step away from it and take a look at the big picture of it. A cruising altitude is 30,000 feet. You need to really get up to about 30,000 feet and look down at your business and say, okay, what else do I need to do? You know, you can't just sit there. If you're going to scale it, if you're not going to scale it and so forth and so on, stay right there with the polisher. You're good to go. Scaling it and growing it, though, you really need to be able to step away and take it all in, so you can feel like you made your best decision possible.
Okay. I think I'm finally have my thoughts have come back around and I can spit this out. But there's no promises that that is going to actually work. So I think a really important thing to do, whether you're going to scale or not, but in before you start actually bringing people in, is to take all of your outflows of cash, all of your bills, and like subscription services, kind of everything, and see if you have
Hmm.
redundancies in there and kind of cut those redundancies out. Because as you start to bring people in, you're going to need more funds to be paying out to them. So making sure that you're streamlined and you don't have redundancies. Some people, maybe they have a CRM and they also have like two other things that are all handling a similar function, when they could chop down to just having the one system and then not have waste. And that was really really hard
Yeah,
for me to get out, but it's true
you
though.
did it. You
Yeah.
did. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thanks, man. And then secondly, I'm really big into kind of the profit first, or splitting your monies up to have part of your money going into each account, and having a when you think it's time to start scaling. And I think we talked about this before. Maybe you have your separate account that you start funneling some money into. Maybe if you're looking at your personal life. So say you have your car and it's paid off. So maybe you start chucking a couple $100 a month into another account. So when it's time to buy another car, you've just got that money that you've lived without. Now you've got a nice down payment to put. Same thing with bringing an employee in. When you start bringing in employees, you have to raise your revenues up, and maybe those are going to fluctuate up and down, especially as you start bringing in more staff. But if you have the backup of money, so you know that you can handle paying them, it's going to be a much smoother transition.
Hmm. And you're going to feel more confident about your decision. And the more confident you are, it seems to be the smoother that things will go. And you're learning a lot along the way. It's a constant evolution in business.
Another thing that's really big is outsourcing some of the work that you have. A lot of the people that we start working with in the beginning, they're doing all of their marketing, all of their bookkeeping, all of the detailing, all of the ordering of products.
Hmm.
And this is a similar to, I have a fella who comes and cuts all the bushes and stuff in my front yard. It's landscaped, and I don't have the time to do that. I my time is better spent somewhere else for the money that I spend on that. So having somebody else come and take care of some of those jobs that you can offload. Maybe it's good to learn the marketing stuff up front, so when you hire a marketing company, they're not just beating you to death and taking your money.
Right.
It's good to have a solid foundation of what your bookkeeping looks like. So if you hire a bookkeeper, they're not just doing whatever they want with your money. But some of these things offload is scaling your business too without even really bringing in another employee.
Yeah. True.
Okay.
Absolutely true.
All right. When you do bring in people, we talked about having those SOPs and all that. I think that a really good training is imperative to set the expectations for your people to perform the best for you. Most people probably don't to get a job and go to work every day and think I'm going to do a really crappy job. They in their head think I'm going to go in here and I'm going to knock it out. But if you don't give them all of the information that they need to succeed, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're kind of spinning your own wheels in
Mhm.
your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you want to do. You want to set up people to succeed. And the trainings are great. I think the other thing is bringing in them and learn yourself how to communicate with your employees to try to give them the best ability to succeed in their job. I think we need to, rather than them just learning how to listen, I think we ourselves, excuse me, as business owners, need to learn how to communicate correctly or to our best of our abilities so we can get the outcome that we're actually looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, and a big lesson with that is, and this is one that I've struggled with, but I'm getting much, much, much better, is to keep, in business, business is business.
Hmm.
And you can't put too much of your emotions into your business dealings because business is business. I remember when my dad died, and there was some financial matters that had to be taken care of, and it was mesothelioma, so there was a lawsuit, and blah 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 blah. And there was part of my family that was just really really struggling, and they couldn't separate that part of what we had to do was there was business that had to be taken care of, even though there was so much emotion in it. And my one of my attorney customers and friends, he told me, he's like, this is where you have to step up, and you have to, this is business, this is money that's on the line, you have to go deal with this, you have to put your emotions on the side.
Hmm.
If you get too fiery and too passionate and emotional in your business, you can, can be a wrecking ball.
Again, you typically the one thing that gets in the way of an entrepreneur in their business is typically the entrepreneur, and that's your emotions and having your emotions get in the way. It's just not a good look. Now there are some people when you look at it, they're very emotional and that's how they market things, but for most people in general, when it comes to business, not so much.
Let's see what else to scale your business. You want to be leveraging technology, so utilizing things like a CRM. I
Hmm.
don't know that we can talk on any of these lives without mentioning a CRM and how important that is to have in your business.
Yeah, really. And just being on the podcast today with Road FS, and that was a lot of fun. And knowing that with Road FS, they can get the CRM and the POS. It was all those things that I didn't have myself when I opened up our shop, And Logan was searching, my son was searching for those type of things. And I gotta admit, here's another thing. My son was telling me how important the CRM was and all this. So I took the time to actually learn from my son, who went to business college and got, you know, fairly smart about it. And I learned from him that like this is so much easier because typically I didn't put anything in digitally. Everything was in notes. It was in a notepad and other things. But after seeing how good and efficient everything was in all this when it comes to CRM and the POS system, that it can make a huge difference in your life. It can actually make it a lot easier. And again, it makes it for a better customer experience.
So, how about things like inventory management? When I had my detailing business, it was small enough because it was mobile and I usually had one person with me,
Hmm.
that I didn't have like a huge inventory that I carried, enough to have a couple coatings on hand and enough products to do what I needed, and then I would order more stuff. But for a bustling shop like you that's doing over $1 million gross a year, how do you guys track your inventory?
Yeah, honestly, the nice thing is the fact that we buy everything from one place, which is from, Owner's Pride Product Care itself. Um, we've got a good idea of just how much we have in inventory. We have it very, I want to say, very controlled to the point where you can walk by and even know where we're at. It's also easy to have your inventory in a CRM, like with what we do, and you can track it that way. But it also comes down to communication. If somebody pulled something, then somebody needs to say something. That's also what it comes down to. But I'd say the protection from that too is just going ahead and making sure you do a physical count and do a physical count once a month. And if you're mobile, same thing. Don't use everything till right till you get the very last part of it and then go out and buy a new one. Buy a new one before you get, or just, get into the habit of, okay, I'm down to a quarter or I'm down to a half. It's time to restock. It can be done. It doesn't necessarily, that wouldn't necessarily need a CRM. It just needs paying attention to your business. And that also makes you more efficient and saves you time. So you don't have to leave a job, to get a product that you might need to complete it.
Then we got things like scheduling and automation. If you're by yourself, I mean, it's not that
Mhm.
incredibly tough. But once you have 5 or 6 employees in there, and you have to match those employees up with a schedule of customers coming in. And how do you guys handle that in the shop that you have?
Yeah, so with that, when we look at a calendar, we have the calendar for, the guys who are doing the installation, ceramic installations and the detailing. And then we also have a column for PPF and tint. So we can schedule all those. Um, we can also look ahead and see how much work we have available for the month for either or. The other thing that I really like about this feature is the fact that people can book online. So the services that we feel comfortable in allowing that to happen, and what I mean allowing that to happen is, PPF, you really want to talk to people about it so you can understand, hey, if you've got an older vehicle or something that has some mileage on it, this is what it might look like if you do the PPF, and explain to them how it physically look different than if it was a brand new car. Eh, Those kind of things. So for certain services, we're able to go ahead and have those done online where they can just book it and click, and we get the notification and any notes or anything else, it's right there. And then we can also give them a call, and confirm the appointment.
Right. So then, as you do get those people, you handle all of these steps that are getting to the point where it's time to bring in the people. Now you bring in the people. And again, we talked
Mhm.
about training and documenting everything with SOPs. These SOPs that you have in your business don't have to just be things that are written down, first of all. If we know that most people get their information through video, probably making videos of those would be a really good idea, even as a secondary thing. And
Mhm.
they're pretty easy to change. And then, second, it seems a really daunting task to do that, to build SOPs. I was just talking to somebody today about doing exactly this. And I suggested that he goes into like ChatGPT and just write down all of the things or open it up and
Mhm.
talk through all of the things that you want to have included in there. And then ask for that to organize it for you in a clear and concise and tight outline. The more prompts you use, the more specific it's going to be to your information. And I tell you what, it's leveraging that technology can do a whole mess for your productivity.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people say, you're cheating, you're not. Writing an SOP can be very daunting. It really can. My son, when he was taking his courses, he was like, yeah, he goes, I got to write an SOP on making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like, you got to what? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound very difficult. But when he started going through, he goes, no, no, he goes, you got to use every step. You know, where is the knife? When you open the cabinet, which cabinet is it? Does it open to the left? Does it open to the right? Reach in. Where is the peanut butter? You know, which way do you turn it? All these different, the lid, all these different little things that here we take for granted because we do it all the time, right? It's just mundane. Well, the same thing happens with your employees too. You know, it's mundane to you, and it seems daunting to train somebody, but they really don't know which way to unscrew the lid for the peanut butter, and you've got to try to give them every step possible. And by doing that, again, you help them succeed. And if they succeed, you get the end result that you're looking for. And unfortunately, that result you're looking for may cause a little bit of mental anguish.
What a great exercise, though. It's brilliant, brilliant
Yeah.
for an example of what to do because you th- we think because we've done the job, it's your business. You've had it the whole time. You just go out there and you know
Hmm.
what you're doing, and you probably do it about the same every time. But without giving that employee the really fair chance to hit your expectations, how can they hit your expectations?
Yeah. I mean, when I first started, right, I was doing paint touch up with my brother. And you go ahead and you spray the paint on, and then you come back and you get, a little bit of reducer. And his thing was you take a small 1 ounce cap, go ahead and put a microfiber towel over it, and that's how you would remove it, remove the excess. And so I'm doing that, and I go, how hard do I need to push? And he looked at me and I'm like, what? I go, how hard do you need to push to remove the excess paint? And I never thought of that. It was so, just rudimentary to him. It was just second nature to him that, he never thought, am I using light pressure? Am I going heavier with this? Am I tilting the cap so it kind of like shaves it down a little bit? These are all things that were just all natural to him. And for me, it was the first time, and because I was training kids how to shoot guns, at the range in the Coast Guard, and then now I'm taking off excess paint off of cars. And he was kind of taken back, and I don't know why, but that always kind of stuck with me.
All right. Now let's hit on that keeping that high quality work, maintaining your quality as you start doing this, which is exactly what we're talking about. And you mentioned earlier checklists. Davis is who
Hmm.
hooked me up with a book on checklists called Checklist Manifesto. Incredible, incredible book, and it just got me all worked up on these checklists. And it's kind of been, I've been carrying the flag of that ever since. Um, with your business, what are you guys doing as far as checklists?
Yeah, it's funny to say that. Anytime you'd see Davis and he's not talking to somebody or he's not working, right? He's got a little notepad with him. And so he makes his checklist. And of course, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, I do it too. And it's part of it is trying to keep it's very difficult. And you know this from personal experience, trying to keep everybody on the same page. The bigger you get, the more difficult it can be. And we have all these different lines of communication today, right? We got cell phones, we got FaceTime, we can text, we can message, all these different ways to communicate with one another, and yet we still can't seem to do it. And so you do have different programs that are out there that kind of become almost like a bulletin board. All right. And for you, that bulletin board would be Monday, your favorite your
Dot
favorite thing.
com.
You just didn't want to say it out loud.
It
But
is
it,
my
it's
it is my checklist. It's it.
it is your checklist. It's everything, and I mean, and I get it. It but we needed something like that too, and now we do have that in order to pin certain things up there to kind of keep everybody a little bit more cohesive. But it is difficult, and the bigger you get, the busier everybody gets. And then we start having to look, okay, do we need to hire somebody? Do we have to do this? What are we doing wrong? Or even in today's world, right? You can look and say, okay, is there an app for that? If there is, how is it going to help us as a team? You know, those kind of things. Personally, I think. I think that's something that often gets forget. Sometimes the easiest of solutions is the hardest to find. And I think that one of the first things to do is there an app for that? And try to see how that would help alleviate some of those issues.
In this day and age, there is an app for that, probably for
Damn
anything
near
you
it.
could think of. And then, so
Yeah.
how, what could we do to like, so we think we're doing the right thing. We're putting all these
Mhm.
pieces in place, but a customer satisfaction survey, I'm sorry, would be an excellent way. I know that we're kind of working on getting one of those out to all of our customers to make sure that we're hitting
Mhm.
all the points. Um, but again, this is like, if you don't know, you don't know. It might feel like everything's going okay, business is humming along, but there could be something if and it's a little unfair, I'd say, to give the satisfaction survey to the customer right when they pick up that car, right when they've got that dopamine blast and they're on a kind of a high looking at their car and they just spent all this money.
Mhm.
But this is something that you would email to them or send out in a mailer or something. Email that mailer. After I said that, I was like, why do you even say that, Dan? Um,
You're old.
but yeah, right. You could put it in the yellow pages and they can call a one. um, but this is going to be how you can get true feedback to know how you're doing and how your team is doing. And I really think that's vital importance.
Yeah, I think the other thing, when you decide that you're going to go ahead and send an email out like that, right, and to get customer input, there's a lot of people I think that are actually afraid of what they might hear. And therefore, what you don't know doesn't hurt you, right? So I think that's the biggest hesitation. I think you're absolutely right in what you're saying as far as what a customer satisfaction email could do and how that's really good input. But I think that's the biggest hurdle. And again, we go back to the biggest obstacle for any business is the owner. We get, we stop ourselves from growing that way. And some of that can just even be ego.
You cannot be an ostrich. You can't just put your head in the sand and think everything's going to be good. And when there is a problem in your business, you have to address it. You can't, whether that's an employee that doesn't
Mhm.
fit, whether that's a service that you're offering that's not profitable, they have to be dealt with head on. And this goes kind of back to that thing that we talked about earlier. Business is business, personal is personal. And sometimes the two things cannot match up.
I think the other thing is it's the job. You know, that's the thing. It's the job, and it's not. I just I do believe as far as an entrepreneur, as far as a business owner, you do end up compartmentalizing a little bit. You know, the police they come first responders come upon some really terrible things, right? And everybody else might be emotional and everything else is, their world is collapsing, but your job is not to be emotional at that moment. You have a job to do, protect lives, save lives, whatever it might be. You've got a job to do. And I think that's what you look at, when you're an entrepreneur. It's part of the job. These are your responsibilities. This is what you signed up for when you said, "Hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur."
And then now we've got people coming in. You can't just bring in those people and just show them the job. You have to do more work. It's like it kind of never ends in a sense. But you have to do more work
Hmm.
to assure that you're building a culture of excellence in your business so these people stay with you. And the longer they stay with you, the more profitable they are to have. It's expensive to bring people in and hire them and train them and so making sure that they're happy. Now, you got to pay people right, first of all, because it's important to get paid. That you have to be able to pay your bills and live your life and not feel you're going down the drain.
Hmm.
But there's more to job satisfaction than just that. And I think that um, having it feel like you have a say in the business or that you have a stake in it and there's room to grow and that you matter is is almost equally as important, as long as you can pay your bills. But it's as important in job satisfaction and
Yeah,
longevity.
absolutely. No, I totally agree on that one. And it's yeah, not only do you want people financially invested, you want people to be emotionally invested too. And you're right. It's letting your team, your employees feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And it goes a long ways. And again, I think even having that right there helps create that cohesiveness and also bridge some of those areas where you might be lacking in some communication because everybody is all in for it for the greater good. Right. So even if something got misinterpreted or whatever, it would be the fact that you've got your team is all still together and they understand we're all in this together. And even though I'm not still at the shop, I'm still part of their like text string between everybody there. That's how they kind of keep, you know, in touch with one another quickly. Also to share photos or anything else that needs to go up front and maybe need to let a customer know about something, whatever. Um, I still like seeing some of their half and halves and saying, wow, that's a great half and half. I'll be using that on our Facebook page. Or I see we got another 5-star review. I make sure I share that with everybody. They're all part of that. It wasn't one person that made that 5-star review happen. It was the entire team from front to back, and making sure that everybody gets, they get a chance to feel that sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that they actually did something that mattered to somebody.
And then another thing that's really important, keeping your employees happy, is continual improvement, continuous improvement. And this is something that we were just working on with Dustin, actually, and that is giving out his employee reviews. So sometimes
Hmm.
it that also helps you as a business owner manage when you're spending money and setting expectations. So somebody's not just coming to you and saying, "Hey, I need a raise right now." They know
Right.
that every 6 months they're going to get a review, and that's when a raise would be awarded. It just really keeps everything in order, and so that's something that Dustin has just implemented into his business, which is it's really funny. He's like a guinea pig of getting to try stuff. So we come up with crazy ideas, and he implements it, and then we see if it works.
I always call him the OP graduate. Him, him and anybody that's worked with us. But definitely, I mean, when you look at what Dustin's been able to do, it's kind of cool to kind of see the evolution of what he started dealing just with the mobile business himself, and then continue to grow and grow and grow. And Ray Evans is another one. Look at what he's been able to do as far as in the very beginning and then his shop and then growing his business. And I say that, with those two guys because I mean they've been around for a long time, almost since, the conception of the entire OP line and product. Uh, but we have a lot of those guys out there, and the cool thing is to be part of that story. It wasn't just selling you a product, but it was able to help you not make the same mistakes that maybe you made or I made, being in this business for as many decades as we have been. And watching these guys succeed means that we're going to succeed, uh, not only with our product line and anything else, but being able to help somebody get to their goal faster than it took us to get, that's succeeding.
That's what it's all about for me, to be quite honest. I don't know if it's because I didn't have kids, and a lot of the guys that we work with are younger, but I get such a thrill when they hit the next plateau or the next level, when they level up. It's just
Mhm.
I don't know.
It's cool. It's a
It
lot of
is.
fun.
It really is. All right. So another thing, as you start to scale that business, you're going to have to start pouring into that marketing. And a lot of what I hear from companies is you're going to spend somewhere between 5 and 10% of your gross on your marketing budget. You
Yeah.
can have the
And
best thing in the world, and if people don't know that you got it, they ain't gonna come and buy it. And there's this quote that I come across all the time. It's not even necessarily the best product or service that wins in a market. It's the one that people know about the most. It's the one that's been smashed in front of their face over and over and over.
Yeah, it can be. And I think, the funny thing to think about this too, when it comes to that type of marketing, is when you go on Amazon and you go to look at buying a product, right? What do you look for? The one
Reviews.
that has the most reviews right away. That's, I mean, it as simple and as basic as that sounds, it's true. And if when it comes to the marketing part of this too, if you're just let's say just if detailing is a side hustle, or you're creating a job for yourself, and word of mouth is perfect, right? Anything bigger than that, you got to go with the social media word of mouth. You got to do the social media platforms. That is a way as far as the word of mouth to get your message across. The great thing right now, and we've talked about this too, is if you are doing any marketing when it comes to social media, and you also with your SEO, which you should be, but anything that's organic right now really, really shows up well in the algorithms. There's so many, I shouldn't say, there's so much money that's being pumped out right now just due to the political campaigns. There's no way that you can outspend that to get noticed. But when all that's going on and there's something that's organic and has those backlinks, it makes a difference. And your 7 to 10%, and typically we don't like to go above seven, but you're right about there. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck during these times.
So that means making sure, like when you put out your social media or shorts or pictures, that you're putting the metadata on the back of those, so it's going to have the keywords in it. I mean, that's what we're doing right now, is we're putting out content to try to bring people back in. Like we're hitting all of the things. We have blog posts
Hmm.
coming out soon, which are just really eh, not so much that what's written in the blog post is the most crazy, coolest information in the world, but the real idea behind it is when somebody goes online and they search for ceramic coating or for whatever it is that's relatable to what you're selling, that your website is going to pop up and it's going to get them to your website and give you a chance to capture them with, your great website and your marketing tactics that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the small businesses that have in those areas, you're targeting your local market or whatever, you become the authority that way. If your blog or your an excerpt of that comes up as a definition, wow, you're right there.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to have some of those backlinks and putting it out there. We've seen it where you get great traction when you take your blog post or blog and you turn it into a Facebook post, and then you share it on some of the other platforms and creating those backlinks. It really, really makes a difference.
Absolutely. So exciting. So exciting. So, what kind of stuff is great content for a detail shop? So, I think about it like this: think of yourself. Don't always look at it from holding a polisher in your hand. Think of it from what the customer sees. Think about what life was like before you detailed cars. What's something that would have captured you? All of the stuff that you know by that's ingrained in your brain, that is, you don't even think about. It's like breathing to you. People don't know. The masses do not know.
Oh,
I always think about back when I first moved to San Diego. My girlfriend at the time had a little Toyota pickup truck, and it had those little doors had opened into the side, so it had these little white paint transfers on there. Well, I thought that was just like doors hit into it and it damaged the paint and it was unrepairable. I think I used the same exact story
mm,
before, but it's true. Put a little cleaner wax on there and I went like this and it came off and I was like, whoa. Well, that's stuff that
yeah.
most people probably don't know. It's that simple and rudimentary is the greatest information that you can be putting out there. You don't necessarily want to put out something with the chemistry of what percentage uh, of a ceramic solution is in a chemical to make it work, because that's really way deeper than anybody really needs to know.
Yeah. And the customers that do want to know that is just it's a very minute percentage. So you want to try to speak to the masses as much as you can. I mean, that's what marketing is. And when it comes to even things like, what you're talking about, like pushing a car or the door jams or anything like, or the door dings and things like that, yeah, some of it is rudimentary and have a little fun with it. I mean, you can do that and turn it even into a short video or whatever. Um, but yeah, I don't think anymore as much as vehicles cost today, there isn't anything that is rudimentary. You know, you don't want anything to go wrong and hurting it or making things worse or whatever. I mean, well, then that's why people buy car care products you know. Um, so help them out, let them know that some of these little tricks or tips that you might have. Like, okay, well, you and I did that live, and you were washing the vehicle, and at the end, you're dressing the tires. I wish I would have known about the tire dressing and the wheel or in this brush, and how quick you can go ahead and get your tires all shined up. I mean that kind of stuff. It's very simple.
Yeah, yeah. You just making tip and trick videos. Easy peasy. Problem,
Hmm.
solution, authority. That's kind of my recipe for those short videos. Show a problem, show the solution.
Yep.
Thereby, you are the authority. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
Okay, so now we've built this monster, we've scaled it, we've got in employees, we've brought in SOPs, everything's humming along. We're feeding that marketing machine. We've outsourced some of our things. We have to keep feeding the beast. Like it never
Yeah.
really stops. So a really great way. You already have customers in, and we do this at Owner's Pride. We have a great group of installers that work with our products, and we have a referral program if they have a friend, because we want more great customers just like them, and you want more great customers just like that car that you just turned out. So you ask them directly, ask them for referrals, and maybe you make some kind of a reward for them. Some people in that upper echelon may or may not be motivated by giving them something for free for it, but maybe they're more, you have to touch them in their emotional level, where they're in their ego is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. I mean, and the referral process is also a one, like what you're saying, continue to feed the machine. That's what I've always called it. You're feeding the machine. Just think of it as a locomotive, and you got a pile of coal, and you got to keep on shoveling in her, and it's just not going to stop. Do you want it to stop? Um, but in doing that in process, it's also like this also goes back to everything you built up is that the fact that you're not feeding the machine alone anymore. You've got employees that are bought in and they want to see this train continue to move and move and move and gain speed. And it actually helps create momentum. And I do think that there is a thing called positive energy. If you're a shop that is full of people who want to be there, then your customers are going to want to be there. And they're going to want to tell other people about the experience that they had and bring them there. It's like I said, it's just I think a cultural thing too, not just basically a marketing plan.
And then you always have to think about, we've built it again, and you have to manage your online reputation, because it's kind of a crazy cancel culture. You say the wrong thing, and I'll say politics, religion, a lot of that stuff, I think for a business owner is best just left to the side, because and yeah, it's your business. You can do what you want. You can post whatever you want. But I personally don't care what somebody worships or who they vote for. I just want to clean their car and protect their car, because I'm trying to grow a detailing business. So I think, especially we're at that kind of that inflection time right now, which it seems a lot more mellow than in past years. But keeping
Mm.
some of those opinions to yourself when you could alienate a lot of potential business, I think is really important. And dealing with complaints or negative feedback in a good, productive way. And I know that we just helped a couple people through some of those situations as well.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go on a little bit on the other side of this one. I agree to you to a point. I do think if you're marketing to a certain group and you know your clientele well, go for it. And I'm talking either side, right? Not picking a side. I'm just saying if you know your community, you know your customer base and where you're at, then you're good to go. But I do think it also brings up a good point, though, when we were talking about separating ourselves from the job. It's really difficult nowadays when you look at social media to see the difference between somebody's personal page and then the business page. And if you got more people that are liking your personal page than your business page, then maybe I start looking at why don't I have more people looking at my business page? Why don't I have more followers? Look at that. Because or if you're trying not to have your people have everybody focus on you but your business, you got to try to make that shift over you or just create that separation. It's difficult. I think it's really difficult. I think it's probably easier said than done.
All of it.
Um, yeah, all of it. But
All of
I
it.
really do. When it comes to social media, I really do think it's just a lot easier said than done. And the funniest thing is look back at your history, or your memories, like on your Facebook page every day. See what you posted 12, 14 years ago, right? See what you posted like 8 years ago. I guarantee you, your posts are definitely a lot shorter. You just like put in a little blurb of what the hell you're doing or where you're at, what you're eating, or a score on a game. And now you look at posts as we've gotten in more and more into social media, they keep getting longer and longer and longer. To me, I find it very fascinating and interesting because I looked at my own and I watched it yesterday. I was looking at it, I'm like, oh my God. I said, what? Like, what? And it's just funny. And it's just funny how much longer they got. I'm like, oh, good God.
Did you have a social media page for before you had your detail shop? So back when you had the bumper business? Did you have social media back then? Is it still alive?
I didn't have, I did not have social media until my kids started getting on it. And I apologize to my kids. I said, I am so sorry because my generation totally jacked up Facebook for you. You guys were having a good time. Things were fine. Nothing was terrible was going on. And no, we had to say, hey, we got to watch what you guys are doing and saying. And then we didn't shut up, and we started telling them, or we started doing the things that we told them not to do. And I mean, totally, totally ruined it for them. That's the way I look at it. That's my personal opinion. Um, but no, it was a necessary evil that was going to happen either way. I was just fortunate enough that I kind of got in with my kids, and it was at about the same time too. You know, I, I mean, my kids were young. I mean, I forgot what the average, you know, of the population even had computers back then, you know, and Kim was actually, she was building computers. Logan was he was actually running spyware while he was in kindergarten. I mean, that kid he's on top of it all. Uh, I maybe I had no choice, but eventually get caught up in the whole social media thing right away with the kids. And I don't know. I look back and it's kind of funny now thinking that we all kind of ventured into that thing called social media together, and here we are. If you would have told me, back then, oh, by the way, you're gonna be on this thing called a podcast. What the hell's a podcast? Nobody's gonna watch that crap,
Right.
you know. Why would they? Don't they got better things to do? I mean, I got to work. I got to do this. I got to do that. You're in your 20s and you're raising three kids. Who's got time for that crap?
I can't imagine that
And
being in
here
my
we are.
20s and raising three kids. That's a whole different direction. Can't even imagine it.
What else do you do in Iowa? I mean, seriously,
Right.
have a family.
All right. Okay. And so let's kind of hit a couple just more points here. And we ran through a lot of these ideas about scaling a business and the different steps and the
Hmm.
strategies. But once we've got it all up and running, and you've hit a plateau, that might be a time where you start looking at targeting new markets. So I know that we have some of our guys work only retail stuff. I know detailers who only do wholesale work. Um, I think you can make a lot of money with each of them. I was speaking with Jeff Dumm today, and one of his strategies is he
Hmm.
does dealership work, and that is how he's bringing in his employees and really scaling that side. But he's also still focusing on his retail side and ceramic coating, so he's kind of growing two simultaneous channels at the same time, which
Hmm.
is really good because that dealership work that's going to be sending him 50 to 100 cars a month, that's consistent work that just keeps going. And
Yep.
and I know some really success. I always poo pooed on the dealership stuff as a detailer, but I know a couple guys who just are absolutely smashing it in that area.
Yeah, the toughest thing when you're doing the wholesale side though, and when you get in the automotive part of it, is there usually are no contracts. So you could be there today and gone tomorrow.
Mm.
I mean, it is
For 3 cents less per car.
yeah, yeah. Um, Now on that's why with the OP side, with the detail shop, that's 90% retail, or 98%, I should say. Maybe even 99 now. And as I was, starting out early in the industry, I worked with a lot of dealerships and I saw a lot of changes. And normally after one, manager left and you kind of followed them to the next, dealership they went to because the next deal or manager that came in, he's got his own guys too, you know. Um, but that was also a different time, you know. Um, the last thing you want now is if something happens like that. I mean, there can be some social media backlash on that. You can say what you want online. You've got free speech, and that kind of stuff wasn't, looked at back then. I mean, you didn't have a choice. You didn't have a say, and you went off and went to the next dealership.
You could you could focus in on luxury and high end clients, which I was
100%.
I, the luxury. That was what I focused on. My business was small, so doing the that dealership wholesale work wasn't really in the cards. But I'll tell you what, if you focus on the high end clients, those people don't feel it as much when the economy has its inevitable ups and downs. You're going to have
Hmm.
recessions, you're going to have good times, bad times, and that's just the way it is. That's how history works and how it works in the future. So I know that I always use these examples. In 2008, when the housing market collapsed and it looked like the world was crashing and burning, I bought a house in San Diego detailing cars. When we just had the darn global pandemic, which, holy crap, stop and just think for a minute what we went through as a planet for everybody on the fucking
Hmm.
on the freaking planet. I did not. That did not come out of my mouth. That did not just come out of.
We're not lying. Don't worry about it. We're not lying. Don't worry about it.
I, so, but we
No.
went through a crazy thing. um, it was
We're gonna blame that on the vid too.
yeah, that was my COVID brain. But man, take over for me for God's sakes. I don't think I should talk anymore.
Yeah, there was a big transition too, and how business was done, pre-COVID compared to post-COVID is is night and day, we're still not over all that yet. I mean, I don't think the structure of business and how things were, of course, they'll never be the way it was. Um, but I think we're finally starting to get more of a solid foothold and an identity and everything. I feels like as far as the craziness of all that, hopefully we learn some things and don't make the same mistakes that we did back then, and because it hurt a lot of businesses, and also it overinflated the market too.
So here's what I was trying to say before I shocked myself. Um, but even though we launched this company 3 weeks before the world shut down with COVID, and we've really had a great time growing business, and most of the detailers that we know made more money through COVID, and it's just a resilient, solid business that I'm so happy that I
Yeah.
found because I really don't feel that I fit in as well anywhere else as in this car care industry.
Yeah, and it's one of those businesses that does give you options, like you were saying. It's something you can do on the side. You know, it'd be, if you're a fireman, you're 3 days on. You got 4 off, vice versa, whichever. It gives you the option to, if you want to make some extra money. Or here's the great thing: if you're set up for as far as retirement, it could be that one thing that you kind of set up for when you transition out of this field into a next. Um, it's got a lot of options to it, and probably the biggest plus side of the industry itself, and also one of its downsides, is it's at a low entry point. You don't have to have a lot of money to get started.
No, no, it's a lot of really good people in this. A lot of good people. A lot of good people.
Yep.
Okay, and so I think I will just throw one more log on the fire, and then we'll cut out of here. But that is and this will feed into kind of something that we're doing. I know at your shop in Omaha, you have Bob who does clinics for you, or kind of like DIY clinics and
Hmm.
classes, and Julius Shoemaker. He is a guy who has really kind of latched onto that, and he's doing regular ones. And it seems such a good idea that we're even firing up some of those to expand our footprint and customer base by doing some kind of intro to detailing classes, and we'll be doing them here, like in San Diego and up in Long Beach and Tacoma,
Hmm.
Washington, Orlando. Are you guys doing those in Omaha also?
We'll be doing it in Omaha too.
Yep.
Yep.
And we're looking for a location in New York and Texas, and then we have a possible in Kansas City as well. So these are going to be kind of
Yeah.
recurring things where you can learn a lot of the basics of detailing, find out if this is the career path that you want to go down, or just really learn how to really take care of your car great.
Yeah. And that's the idea. You can learn some things just by watching them, but actually doing something, you learn so much more because all your senses are involved, right? And plus, you get the chance to ask those questions, that just kind of pop right up. How hard should I be pushing down on this towel? Which direction should I be going? Where do I start when I wash my vehicle? Do I really need to pre-rinse it? What should it's just one of those things where it's a great opportunity to learn.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, we've done gone over our hour. We're gonna start taking these and
Very good.
putting them up on the audio version for the Owner's Pride podcast. So that's firing back up. And so check us out on audio. We're gonna be here live every Thursday at 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock on video.
Mm.
Mm,
All good.
it is all good. It's all good. Now go over to ownerspride.com and is that discount code still good for people?
All 20.
Fall 20. Get 20% off of your order on ownerspride.com, hitting Fall 20. You can hit that link. It'll be getting updated here in the next day or two with all of our training classes that are coming up. If you have any questions, you can always email me at dann@ownerspride. You can call the 1-800 number on the website. Hit us on social media. We're here for you. Thanks for all you do.
Always. Thank you.
Until next time, you want to do it?
Oh no, I'll let you.
Stay glossy.